something wild happened live on TV, and you could actually see the panic in their eyes. Fox News, usually Trump's loudest cheerleader, was suddenly at a loss for words. The July job numbers came in, and they were rough. Just 73,000 new jobs. Expectations were much higher. And to make matters worse, the government quietly revised the numbers from previous months, wiping out 258,000 jobs that were supposedly created. That's not a small mistake. That's a massive blow. You can literally watch Fox anchors scrambling to spin it, calling the numbers fake.
We all saw it over the past several years. Every time you would have important numbers come out, we would later find out that the BLS had put out phony numbers.
For weeks, Fox had been feeding its viewers the same lines. The tariffs are working. The economy is booming. Trump is putting America first. But when the real numbers dropped on air, those talking points crumbled right in front of them. The same hosts who had mocked the critics just sat there, speechless. That silence said everything. Then came the damage control. Trump's so-called labor secretary was rushed in to patch things up, repeating, "Well, at least we're putting Americans first." But the reality is plain. Job growth is slowing, manufacturing is shrinking, and government layoffs are piling up. And still, the message from Trump's team is, don't worry, the tariffs are working. It would be funny if it weren't so harmful. At this point, Trump looks cornered. The numbers don't back him up anymore. The narrative is slipping, and even Fox can't keep the illusion going. This time, their panic wasn't about immigration or crime. It was about cold, hard data. And the data told a different story.
Mr. President, why did you fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics?
Because I think our numbers were wrong.
That's what happens when spin meets economic facts. The illusion starts to fade. And what's left is a president who promised jobs, but left pink slips behind. Make sure you're subscribed, because this isn't just a weak report. It's the start of something much bigger. Let's break it down.
There's no evidence the jobs numbers were manipulated as Trump is claiming. There's no one credible or serious who's saying any such thing. Today's report was bad. It did show bad numbers, not because the numbers were cooked, but because there was weakening in the economy.
All right, let's dig into what just happened, because this report hit harder than most expected. The July jobs numbers are out, and even Fox News couldn't dance around them. Only 73,000 new jobs were added. That alone would have raised eyebrows. But when you look deeper, it gets worse. The original forecast was 110,000. That means the actual number came in 33.6% below expectations, a huge miss. But that's not even the most shocking part. The government also revised earlier reports, quietly subtracting 258,000 jobs from May and June. Taken together, that's a 20% downward revision for those 2 months. So when you total it all up, we're looking at 331,000 fewer jobs than originally believed. That's nearly half a year of solid job growth. Gone. It reshapes the entire picture of how the summer economy actually performed. These revisions raise serious doubts about the momentum of the labor market. The unemployment rate may look steady on paper, but under the surface, job creation has either flatlined or turned the other way. And that gap between the story the numbers are supposed to tell and what's really happening, it's widening fast, and that puts a spotlight on Trump's entire economic message. Why does this matter so much? Because job reports don't just fill headlines. They shape everything. They reflect whether businesses are hiring or holding back, whether families are earning, spending, and feeling secure. A strong report lifts confidence. A weak one sends ripples through the markets and through people's lives. That's why administrations push hard to show good numbers. It helps sell the idea that their policies are working. It calms investors, it reassures voters, and it gives media something upbeat to report. But this time, the data paints a much bleaker picture, especially when viewed through the lens of Trump's America First agenda, with its trade wars and deep cuts to public services. And Fox, they've spent months echoing the same message. The economy's booming, tariffs are helping, nothing to worry about. But when the real figures came out, you could see the reaction. They weren't prepared. Watching anchors freeze up on air told the whole story. Now the facts are too clear to ignore. The job market is showing real cracks, and the supposed economic wins that Trump keeps touting are starting to look more like illusions. People warned this day would come, that the impact of tariffs, inflation, and shrinking payrolls would eventually show up in the numbers. Well, now they have. And Fox News, after spending so long propping up the story, had to face the fallout in real time. To manage the fallout, Fox brought on Lori Chavez DeRemer, presented as if she were the labor secretary, to defend the administration's position. She leaned hard into the usual lines, praising tariffs, highlighting trade negotiations, and insisting that native-born workers were benefiting. But the ground beneath her claims was already cracking. No amount of spin could change the facts. Job growth is slipping, consumer confidence is shaky, and major manufacturing sectors are pulling back. The America First slogan might sound strong, but in this context, it came off more like a distraction than a plan. The data isn't pointing to a recovery, it's pointing to a slow and steady unraveling. And here's where things went completely off the rails. After the July jobs report landed with a thud, Trump didn't take it well. Instead of acknowledging the numbers, he lashed out at the Bureau of Labor Statistics like someone flipping the board after losing the game. In typical Trump fashion, he couldn't accept the bad news, so he fired the person delivering it, BLS Commissioner McIntarfer, accusing her of rigging the report to make him look bad. This wasn't a policy disagreement. This is ego-driven chaos. McIntarfer had served under both Republican and Democratic administrations and built a reputation for professionalism and independence. But that didn't matter. The numbers were inconvenient, so the messenger had to go. Trump didn't stop there. He took to X with a furious rant, accusing the Bureau of sabotage. Soon after, Labor Secretary Lori Chavez jumped in with a post echoing his claims, hinting that the data release was botched. That 1-2 punch raised serious concerns about political interference in how economic data is collected and shared. And this is where it gets dangerous. These aren't just angry tweets. This is the president attacking the very system that businesses, investors, and workers rely on to make informed decisions. The trust in those numbers, already shaken, is now at risk of falling apart entirely. Trump didn't like what he saw in the report, so he tried to discredit it, fire the official behind it, and turn the Labor Department into a mouthpiece. That's not a policy pivot. That's dismantling public trust to protect a political brand. At this point, you have to wonder, if the truth can be fired, will we start seeing job reports custom-built to flatter the White House? This isn't accountability. It's a warning sign, and the country just watched it play out in real time. In a rare moment of unfiltered reality, Fox's Maria Bartiromo and her panel were caught completely off guard when the July jobs number hit live on air. There was no immediate spin, no quick pivot, just silence. And that silence spoke volumes. It was clear they hadn't prepared for numbers this bad. Economist Steve Moore stepped in, trying to patch things up by blaming the shortfall on tariff turmoil. But even he didn't sound convinced. The official unemployment rate, 4.2%, was thrown out as a bright spot, but it felt disconnected from what people are actually seeing. Layoffs, reduced hours, and hiring freezes across multiple sectors. And here's the thing. None of this should be surprising. Trump's trade strategy isn't just risky. It's setting up a major economic blow. The whole approach relies on one core idea, that slapping tariffs on other countries will pressure them into playing fair and bring manufacturing back to the U.S. But in practice, it's doing the opposite. It's hitting the same American workers he claims to protect. And the full impact hasn't even landed yet. When these tariffs go into effect, they act like a tax, except it's not foreign governments paying the price. It's American businesses. They still need car parts, electronics, machinery, food supplies, and now they're paying more for all of it. That cost doesn't just vanish. It's passed on to the rest of us. Prices climb across the board: cars, groceries, clothes, even medicine. In places like Michigan and Ohio, auto plants are feeling the strain. Imported parts are more expensive, production slows, and hours get cut. Jobs start disappearing. In states like Iowa and Nebraska, the hit is even deeper. After the tariffs on China, Beijing fired back by cutting off U.S. crop purchases. That wiped out the biggest customer for many American farmers overnight. Some are on the edge of bankruptcy. Others are sitting on crops they can't sell. Supporters of the policy keep pointing to strong economic data, but much of that is just temporary noise. Some of the early gains came from people rushing to buy before prices went up. Others were driven by short-term bailouts, like the emergency support sent to farmers. That's not real growth. It's buying time. And now the signs are piling up. Shipping firms are reporting a slowdown in global trade. Big retailers are quietly raising prices. Factories in Indiana and Illinois are letting workers go. Wages aren't keeping pace with inflation, and even economic powerhouses like Texas and California are showing cracks. Port traffic is down, deliveries are delayed, and global demand is fading. This isn't strength. It's a slow unraveling. Trump's tariff push is isolating the U.S. from international trade. Other countries, Brazil, India, Vietnam, are stepping in to take our place. And once those supply chains shift, they don't just snap back. The hardest part? This is only the first wave. The numbers might still look stable, but the pressure is rising. More layoffs are coming. Prices will keep climbing. Consumer demand will dry up. And when the hit finally lands, it won't be a bump. It'll be a full-blown storm. Despite all the bold talk from the administration, American workers, especially in manufacturing and the public sector, are the ones feeling the squeeze. Job losses are adding up. Factory floors are thinning out. Layoffs across government agencies are gaining speed. Trump's team keeps pointing to investment and momentum, but businesses don't invest when the ground keeps shifting. They need stability, predictability. Instead, they're facing trade uncertainty, rising costs, and shrinking demand. The result? Hiring freezes, canceled expansion plans, and more pink slips. That constant drumbeat of strong job growth doesn't hold up under scrutiny, and it's getting harder to defend. Even longtime allies in the media and policy circles are starting to fall quiet. Because if this is what winning looks like, why are so many American workers losing their jobs? A major legal development just raised the stakes even higher. The Supreme Court has allowed Trump's RIF, reduction in force, plans to move forward, even while lawsuits are still pending. That decision gives the administration the power to start cutting thousands of federal jobs immediately, without waiting for a final legal ruling. In effect, the court has handed the White House a window of opportunity. Agencies can be gutted, staff can be slashed, and by the time the courts weigh in, the damage may already be done. It's not just about lost jobs. It's about the disappearance of institutional knowledge, expertise, and the people who keep essential services running. But the fight isn't over. Unions remain one of the last lines of resistance. Groups like the AFGE, backed by the AFL-CIO, are pushing back, both in courtrooms and on the ground. One of their latest efforts is a national union bus tour, traveling across the country to raise awareness and rally support. Union leaders have also been vocal about the political hypocrisy on display. Speaker Mike Johnson, for example, took aim at federal workers while heading off for recess. As labor leaders point out, those criticisms aren't just wrong. They're a slap in the face to public servants who show up every day with integrity and commitment. So here we are, an economy under pressure, public trust breaking down, and a president who fires the messenger instead of facing the message. Job losses are climbing, institutions are being hollowed out, and even longtime allies can't keep the spin going. The question now is simple. How much damage will be done before anyone steps in to stop it? If you care about accountability, about truth, and about where this country's headed, make sure you're subscribed. Because this story isn't over, and we're just getting started.